They say nothing exciting ever happens in a sleepy town. But sleepy towns have the deepest nightmares. In Marlow, Oklahoma, a 15-year-old tagged along for his cousin's overnight shift at a gas station. Just a boring summer night to kill some time. Until something lit up the sky and took control of their car. This isn't just a story about UFOs, hauntings, or strange lights. It's a story about what follows you home and what might be waiting when you get there. So nestle in, little chickadees. Tonight's tale is extra crispy and 100% unnerving. This is the Hen House Files, and this is the Blue Light Over Marlow. The summer I turned 15 was dry as bone and twice as dull. My hometown of Marlow, Oklahoma, isn't on most maps, and that's kind of the point. We had 2 stoplights, 1 high school, and more cows than people. A place where everybody knows your business, and most of them wanted to stay that way. That summer, my cousin Eric had just started working nights at the old Conoco station off County Line Road. It was the kind of place that smelled like motor oil and stale coffee. The soda machine hadn't worked since 2009, and the security cameras only pointed at the ceiling. It was a Friday night when Eric asked if I wanted to tag along for his 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift. He said he hated being alone out there. I think he was just bored, but something in his voice told me he meant it. When he pulled up to my house in his beat-up '98 Mustang, the sun had just dipped under the horizon, leaving the sky streaked with purple and gold. I remember he had Nirvana's "Come As You Are" playing through a crackling speaker. The heat clung to us like a second skin. I didn't know it yet, but that would be the last normal night of my life. The Conoco was lit by a single buzzing fluorescent tube inside and 2 sickly yellow bulbs outside. A bell chimed as we walked in. "Make yourself at home," Eric said, tossing me a bag of spicy chips. "This place is dead after midnight." He wasn't kidding. For the first 2 hours, we saw 1 trucker and a couple of teenagers who came in to giggle at the dirty magazines behind the counter. At around 1 a.m., I started snooping. I found an old Polaroid camera beneath the register, along with 1 photo still in the compartment. It was grainy, dark, but clearly taken from inside the store. The image showed someone standing at the front doors, just outside. I showed it to Eric. He stared at it for a long moment and said, "I didn't take that." We laughed it off. Kind of. At 3:36 a.m., the bell chimed again. An old man stepped in, tall and rail-thin, with leathery skin and eyes so pale they almost looked cloudy. He moved slowly, each footfall sounding unnatural on the linoleum floor. He didn't say a word. He just stared at the beef jerky rack for what felt like 20 minutes. I watched the clock. 17 minutes. Exactly. Then he walked up to the counter and held out a $5 bill. Eric frowned. "We don't sell loosies," he said. "Only packs." The man opened his hand, revealing a single unlit cigarette. "I already bought it," he said. Eric took the bill and gave him the change. He didn't want to argue. As the man turned to leave, he looked over his shoulder and said, "You ever seen the blue light?" Eric didn't answer. The man smiled with just the corners of his mouth and walked into the night. I asked Eric what that meant. He just shook his head. "That's what they used to call it, back in the '70s. Some folks around here saw it." We closed up at 4:03 a.m. The drive home was dead silent except for the sound of cicadas and gravel crunching under the tires. The road between the gas station and Eric's house cuts between 2 massive cornfields. I'd been down it 100 times before and never thought twice. But that night, the air felt thick, like the sky was holding its breath. That's when we saw it. Hovering above the corn, maybe 10 feet off the ground, was a glowing blue light. Not a beam, not a plane. It was solid, orb-like, and eerily calm. We slowed the car. The light dropped into the cornfield, then rose again, bobbing like it was searching for something. It darted left, then right, then stopped completely still. I could feel something behind my eyes start to tingle, like it was looking back. Eric turned off the headlights. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Just watch." The orb floated closer. Then it did something impossible. It bent. Not physically, but the space around it warped, like a mirage over pavement. The corn shifted without wind. There was a low humming sound, but it wasn't coming from outside. It was in our chests. Then, with a flash, it shot straight up into the clouds, leaving a trail of heat and static behind it. Gone. Eric put the car into drive and we rolled forward. Except, he didn't touch the gas. The car kept moving. Smoothly. Quietly. "Are you doing that?" I asked. "Nope," he said, showing me both feet, hovering above the pedals. The shifter read neutral. We were going 35. Eric pressed the brake. Nothing. "Pump it," I said, panicking. He did. Still nothing. The wheel stayed loose, but the car kept gliding forward, like it was on a track. When we came to the first turn, the car slowed slightly and turned on its own. It knew where we were going. I started crying. Not loudly, just silently leaking tears as I stared at the speedometer. We pulled onto Eric Street, slowed, turned into the driveway, and stopped. No lurch, no noise, just stillness. Eric opened the door and threw up into the bushes. He never spoke about it again. Not to me, not to his parents, not even to himself, from what I could tell. He quit the next day. The Conoco was shuttered a week later. No notice. Just padlocks on the doors and a sign that said closed for repairs. But the locals talked. One guy said his cousin saw the light back in '83 and walked straight into the cornfield. Never came out. Another said the gas station was built over some kind of Cold War testing site. Me, I went back once. During the day, the corn was gone. Cleared, plowed flat. Nothing but empty dirt where the light had hovered. But the weird part? In the soil, I found something shiny. A tiny silver circle, no bigger than a dime, etched with a symbol I didn't recognize. It hummed when I touched it. I dropped it, walked away. I haven't been back since. So what was the blue light? Alien intelligence? Military experiment? Something older? Whatever it was, it didn't just observe. It interacted. And if it could control a car, maybe it could control people too. Remember, little chickadees, next time you're coasting home at 4 a.m. and the car seems a little too quiet, check the gear shift. Because in Marlow, you don't drive the car drives you. This has been the Hen House Files, where the lights in the sky don't blink, the gas station never closes, and the cornfields aren't empty. We'll see you next time. Or maybe we already have.